All right, so a lot of stuff going on around the nation. Everybody's hearing about the interest rates. We're hearing about the housing crisis. We're hearing about the shortages, hearing about all this stuff. Well, I want to go ahead and tackle all of that today and tell you a little bit more specifically about Florida. When we discuss living in Florida, what did you think higher prices would change? We're getting after that next. Hey everybody, my name is Craig Cunha. I'm a real estate agent here in Southwest Florida. If you're looking for a channel to tell you a little bit more about what it's like to live, play, eat, sleep, and buy real estate on the Gulf Coast, this is the channel for you. Go ahead and subscribe, hit the little bell to make sure you're notified every time. And if you'd like to search like we do through the MLS, go to our nextfloridahome.com and get started there. I'm getting calls from people every single day and I absolutely love it. And if you're somebody that needs more information than what you're getting through these videos, you've got to call, text, or email because I've got your back when moving to the Gulf Coast. All right, so before we jump into all this market stuff, I just wanted to share another experience that we had the other day. We're out on the boat, and I've had a couple different experiences lately regarding that. And this is for all of you who have a interest in a waterfront or just a water sport kind of a lifestyle. Consider the waters that you're going to be going in. We went up the other day to Fisherman's Village up in Charlotte Harbor, goes up into the Peace River. Well, all these river waters that we have around here, they have something special about them. It's not the pretty green emerald colored water that you get out in the Gulf. It's a nice brown Coca-Cola looking kind of water. And at a distance, it doesn't seem that way. Water looks like water for the most part. But when you're riding along and your engine's churning this up, you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. It's brown water. You're not seeing much in it. And as you get into the open water of Charlotte Harbor, in this case, it turns a little more green. And then as you get out towards the Intercoastal and the Boca Grande Pass, that's where the waters get really clear and really emerald green, absolutely gorgeous. We were in about 10 feet of water when we were fishing last week with my boy. We could see the bottom. So it's really nice in some areas when you get that, but the reason why I'm bringing this up to you is if you are going to be a boater and you're choosing a waterfront home, you may end up finding that you have to use river access to get out to this beautiful water. And in some cases, you might say, you know what, I'd rather a shorter commute. Maybe I'll just store my boat at a marina because in particular, I'm up at the Burnt Store Marina. It takes me about 20 minutes to get across the harbor there to get over to Boca Grande Pass. And I'm in the emerald green water. And it's all the nice green on the way over there. So I don't really get that brackish brown water. You'll even see it at the yacht club. If you take the kids to the beach there, that color water is kind of what you're going to experience all up and down the Caloosahatchee River, as well as up into the Peace River, Myakka River. They're all going to be that way. So something to consider if you're going to be entering the boating lifestyle here in Southwest Florida. All right, so all the markets are a mess right now. You're hearing all the reports, whether it's in YouTube, on TV. Everybody's got a doomsday story about what's going on and how it's going to affect everybody. And it's all terrible. Well, you know me, I'm not going to do that. I'm not a doomsday kind of person. I'll tell you the negative if it's here, but when you're looking at these markets and these reports, these are national reports. You have to look local. And we're not experiencing that same thing here. In fact, the Fed recently said that they're going to reset the housing market. Well, the Fed can't reset the entire housing market just because they're raising rates. Every area is not affected the same way. And if you're going to tell me that every market is exactly the same and will run the same exact way, you really don't know what you're talking about. Hell, I don't know everything I'm talking about, but I can tell you that based upon the reports that I ran, and I'm going to share the stuff with you, our market is not looking like it's hurting at all. So be very specific about the information you're trying to find and don't just take it from any Joe that you find as you're searching and scrolling the internet. All right, so here in Southwest Florida, the prices are still up. New listings are down. Homes for sale, that's slightly down as well. Pending sales are up. Closed sales are slightly down. Days on the market, it's up slightly, of course. And the months of supply is trending down. So if you look at all these numbers and what they really mean, our market is still a pretty strong housing market. And these, when I'm saying trending slightly and adjustments, they're slight. They're small adjustments, so there's nothing drastic. But I'm going to tell you what, if you look at some of the charts, the drastic stuff would be, more along the lines of things flying off the market still. So I'm not completely buying into the rates going up and changing everything. And there's another reason for that. I'm going to tell you a scenario that happened to me this week, right along those lines as to why you can't just go by rates alone. So there's a new term out there in real estate. It's called deceleration. Deceleration is basically a slowing of the process. So appreciation, obviously prices go up. Depreciation, prices down. Deceleration is just, we're going to go kind of at a similar pace, might slow down just a little bit. In fact, Mark Fleming, he's a chief economist, and he's saying that don't expect the prices to come down. We're going to see maybe some slowdowns, but the demand for the housing still is outpacing the supply that we have. So as long as that stays the way it is, there's not a whole lot that can be done to stop it. Now, interest rates, as you know, have been going up, and from what they're saying, they're going to continue going up. We just had a 0.75 point increase just the other day. So we're well over 6% now. And the one thing that people are thinking is, well, is this going to fix the market? Well, it's not really going to fix it. They're expecting it to fix it because people aren't going to spend money as much as they were spending it. Problem with that is new home builders are still building homes, and the people that can no longer afford because the interest rate just adjusted on them, those homes go back on the market for sale. And now they're going to go back up for sale to other people who probably are going to be using credit and think that the rates are too high. So what do? They adjust their prices down a little bit, and then the investors jump in. Yeah, that's what's happening. The investors are coming in when a builder drops a price, maybe $40,000 in some cases from where they previously had it, because they can't find a normal buyer. The investors are going to come in and snag it up because they're paying cash. They don't care. They're looking for the return on the investment. And right now, with where rents are, you can't rent anything decent in this area for under $2,000 a month. It's where things are going. Somebody's always going to snap that home up. We're so active. And again, the influx of people coming from the north and the influx of people that are remote workers now, I mean, there's just people that are living new lives that they didn't even expect because they're given that opportunity. And if you're given that opportunity to go, are you going to live in paradise? Or are you going to live where you've been living? Now, with these investors, the reason why that they're coming after the real estate is every other market, like we said, is not doing well. Bitcoin's at 20,000, I believe now, and they were at 70,000 at their peak. So that's fallen apart. The stock market, if you have any investments in there, you know that's not doing very well. So where else are you going to put your money? You're going to put it in a savings account because now you can get maybe a percentage point? That's probably not the best place either. So if you've got these mountains of cash, stick it in the one thing that you know is still growing, real estate. And if you're somebody that can afford to buy a home now, even with the rates where they are, hey, it's still a great investment. So don't shy away from it if it's something that makes sense. We're going to be talking a lot more about these things as we move forward and why all of this is happening. So because this moratorium last year and people couldn't get evicted, landlords were having to bite the bullet on all the costs for these rental units. Well, there's a way around it, and they figured it out. You've heard of Airbnb, you've heard of VRBO. Those are not leased properties, so therefore you're under a short-term rental, which is usually paid in advance. And if you go into that property for a week, they can extend you for 52 weeks if they want to, can't they? But there's still no lease to guarantee you stay there. It runs like a hotel. So they found that, hey, if I get a VRBO or an Airbnb, I can still collect the rents that I would have collected. I just might have to change people every so often, but at least I'm not going to be stuck holding the bag trying to find out how I'm going to pay for it. Now, this works great in some areas. Cape Coral is one of them because we don't have rental restrictions. We don't have a bunch of HOAs, so you're able to run these VRBOs and Airbnbs very freely. They just ask that you register the home as a rental with the city so that if there are any problems at the residence, then they'll know who the owner is to be able to track them down. Anyway, with the annual rentals, yeah, they still exist, but if we're going to run into this issue again because the economy is going the direction it's going, then hey, it might be another consideration for those that are going to be looking into investment properties. Airbnb and VRBO just might be the way to go. All right, speaking of the rate change and investors are not nearly as afraid of this as the individual. And I'll give you an example. I have an investor that's selling a property. We found another investor that wants to take it over because it's been running as a VRBO, Airbnb. So they're going to get the home turnkey. Well, the new buyer is mortgaging part of this. And it took my seller about a day and a half to respond to the offer. Well, in that day and a half, that's when the rate change happened. Yeah, this guy was trying to get his contract back so he could lock his rate. We didn't get it back very quickly. And unfortunately, the gentleman's rate changed. And from what the agent said, it changed quite a bit. But you know what's funny about that? They haven't canceled. They're moving forward with it still. So this is where it kind of gives me the frontline view of what's going on in this market. If they're not running away and their rate changed drastically, it tells me it's about the return on investment. And if that return is still strong enough for them not to back out, that's what the individual should be looking at too. It's got to be a scenario that works for you and your family. But if it works, lock it in while you can, because 6% historically is still a fantastic rate. We're going to be talking here shortly about somebody that had 17% back in the day and how they fixed it. But there are fixes to everything. So if you can lock something in, even at 6%, get it done and start living in paradise. I did have a comment on the last video that I did, and one of the comments was about these interest rates. And the gentleman basically said, hey, why is everybody whining about 5, 6, and 7% interest? And he's the one that I was telling you about that had the 17% interest on his mortgage. What did he do to fix it? He refinanced. Rates will eventually come back down, even if they go way up, like 17%, that's nuts. So anyway, you take the highest interest rates we've ever had and the very lowest, which at 2 and 3% never should happen. I think we all know that. For anybody who was able to lock that rate in, that was an absolute gift. But 6% is still super low. And I don't know why there's all this complaining. I guess it's because, yeah, all of our expenses have gone up. I mean, gas is ridiculous. Probably should have left that pipeline open, huh, Joe? Anyway, that's the only thing I'm going to say about that. With all that said, though, expenses are up on everything, so I get it. Every single thing you do nowadays costs more money. Hell, I'm trying to put a lanai extension on my house, and it costs as much or more than if I would have had a pool underneath it a year ago. Yeah, kind of ridiculous. So I think we might put that one on hold. But that's just the state of what it is right now. We're going to talk a little bit more about how we're different here in Florida. We're coming up now with an all-ages affordability solution here in Cape Coral. There is a complex that's being built, a housing complex. There's going to be 96 units. And like I said, all ages, because most of these affordable living situations are for 55 plus to help the seniors. They don't really have one for younger people. So in this case, they're going to make 96 units. It's going to take them about a year and a half, and this project just started back in March, but it's going to house those people. It will be for low income families. So if it's a family of 4, $64,000 is the cap on how much you can make. So you have to be under that number, and you've got to qualify to get in here. Unfortunately, there are hundreds of families that need this, and we've only got 96 units. So we're starting down the road to fix the problem, but you know, that's just scratching the surface at this point. Even with all the building that you see everywhere in the area, they're still saying it's going to take us 10 years to catch up on what we actually need for people to live. And Aspire is just opening up. They're right over there on Chiquita Boulevard. There are hundreds of units in there. But once again, they're starting over $2,000 a month. That is costly. I mean, that's super expensive. My mortgage is nowhere near that. And many people in this area, mortgages are nowhere near that. And even if you go at 6% right now, if you get the right buy, you're probably still going to be under what the rent is. So that's why I'm saying don't be afraid of it. Just educate yourself. Educate yourself on what you can and can't do, then make the decision. Now, some facts about actually living in Southwest Florida. They recently reported that there are 12 counties within Southwest Florida. Lee County, which is where Fort Myers and Cape Coral is, we are the highest in number of crashes in the entire Southwest Florida area. Yeah. And one intersection in particular is spotlighted as the worst. That's where Pine Island Road, State Route 78, crosses over US 41. And they're saying one of the top reasons for this, and when I say they, it's Florida Department of Transportation, but they're saying distracted drivers. Well, hell, you got a cell phone in your hand, right? And you're probably sitting there looking at what the next story was or texting your friend or whatever the hell it is. That's the reason for it. If you're one of those people asking why the auto insurance is so high, that might be one reason why. So don't contribute to the problem. Be one of the people that puts the phone down instead and get rid of this distracted driver thing, and we might get better insurance rates. There's also now an active sensory technology that's being used in Fort Myers. It's called the Shot Spotter. And what this does is it picks up on any gunshots that are within the Fort Myers area. And it allows the police officers to target an area where it originated so they can start their searches faster and get after these gunmen. All this active shooter stuff that's going on all over the country, we have to start wrangling this. And it's not, the solution isn't taking away the guns. I mean, come on. The bad guys are still going to find a way to get a gun or whatever else they're going to use. So we're putting things in place to get this done. This new sensory unit is an awesome start. I can also share with you our schools here are super secure. At least Oasis Charter is where my son goes, and it is a wonderful setup that they have there. There's about a 6 to 10 foot high chain link fence that goes all the way around the entire complex, and there is an electronic gate that slides back and forth. There's also a guard shack. When you pull up to the guard shack, he scans your license to make sure you say you are who you are. Then when you get to the building, you push the button to buzz in, you look up at the camera, they see who you are, and you don't gain access until you tell them why you're there, who you're there for, and who you are. That's pretty darn secure. Plus, there is a resource officer right there on the property, always outside whenever the buses are coming and going throughout the day, so they make their presence known. But I think that's as safe and secure as we can get. I feel better that I see all these things when I go to my son's school, but that should give you a little peace of mind if you're a parent dropping a child off for the day when you have to go off to work. I found an area the other day where a seawall's going in, and I wanted to show all those people, all my clients are putting seawalls in. This is why it needs to be done before the house goes up. All the dirt that has to be pulled away from that area, from the edge where the seawall's going, it gets piled in the middle of the property. Then the seawall goes in and the tiebacks get put in, then they'll fill that spot back in with dirt. At that point, they can spread the rest of the dirt so that they're able to build on the site. But that step has to be done in advance, because if the house is already there, they've got nowhere to put all this dirt. There's also a company I found the other day that if you're somebody who has erosion behind your seawall, or you have iguanas digging holes because they like to go down behind your seawalls, and it messes with the integrity of that seawall. So this company will fill the voids so that you don't have any future problems with that. You want to attack those problems now until it becomes a bigger problem later. Another thing we have here this time of year in Florida is Saharan dust. It is dust that comes across in the air through across the ocean from Africa. And when it's coming across and hits our area, there's two things it does. Number one, it reduces the chances of rain, and it also shuts down storm activity. We're in hurricane season right now. They can't form when the Saharan dust is there. It dries everything out. So while it seems a little more hazy when you're out and about, and it's not going to harm you, but what it's going to do is keep you drier. There won't be any rain. Now this week, heat advisories were put in place. That's when the feels like temperature. Now feels like temperature is derived from humidity plus temperature. If that feels like temperature hits between 105 and 115, a heat advisory goes in place. And what that's basically saying is stay the hell out of the sun. If you're in the shade with the breezes we have here, it was 95 the other day. Hell, it was one of these days they said that the heat index was going to be 105. It felt gorgeous. I even had a chill. I was talking outside with Eric and Jen. We were doing a walkthrough of their property, and they said the same thing. They're from California. And they said, my gosh, being in the shade and being in the sun are two different things, but it's so comfortable just to sit here in the shade with the breezes. That's what I'm talking about. It's absolutely wonderful, even in the dead of summer. All right, so that's a little bit more about living in Florida, and what did you think the higher prices would change? They really didn't change a lot. Life seems to be continuing the way it was outside of higher gas prices and higher food prices. It's pretty much the same. If you want more information about what it is like living in Florida, check out one of these other videos. And if you've got a specific question that you need an answer to, you've got to call, text, or email, because I've got your back when moving to the Gulf Coast.